Garrett Crochet is shipping off to Boston. Let's discuss what the White Sox got back for their ace from the Red Sox next on a special bonus edition of Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the Fansided Network, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already, and also follow or subscribe to the show at wherever you get your podcasts. Well, I guess it was a matter of when, not if, Crochet would be dealt at the winter meetings. I kind of thought it was going to be if. I thought he would be maybe traded more towards spring training because the White Sox had a big price tag. There were some other options. I talked about it actually on today's official episode, how Dylan Cease could really impact what the White Sox could do in the trade market, as you know, he may have been a more attractive option, even though he had 1 year of team control. And then the Boston Red Sox decided to say, screw it, we're not going to pay Corbin Burns, or maybe they might still do that, but they jump the market and they go ahead and pull off the trade to get the White Sox ace. The Sox got 4 prospects back, and while it stinks to no longer have an attraction and a top pitcher that the Sox actually drafted and developed, they do get the much needed impact bats that they desperately needed. The White Sox are getting catcher Kyle Teel, who is the Red Sox 4th-ranked prospect and number 25 prospect according to MLB Pipeline. And again, for those that are watching live, if I keep looking a little bit off, I just got my notes off to the side. Want to make sure that I fully inform you of what the White Sox are getting in this return. They also get outfielder Braden Montgomery, who is the Red Sox 5th-rated prospect and number 54 prospect overall in MLB Pipeline. So they get basically the Red Sox most recent first-round picks. Teel was their pick last year, already made it to, I believe, AAA, and I'll get to that in a second. And Montgomery was the Red Sox first-round pick this year. And the White Sox were reportedly interested in Montgomery as their choice at number 5 before he broke his ankle, and that kind of dropped Montgomery down some draft boards. The Sox did end up drafting Hagen Smith. So think of it this way. In this trade, while, again, it stinks to lose a guy that, you know, basically an all-star that you drafted and developed, and something that your system has constantly done, you lose him, but you do get basically an extra draft, you know, first-round draft pick back and another guy who was a first-round pick. Also, the Sox are getting Boston's number 11 prospect, Chase Merdroth. If somebody's listening out there and wants to put in the comments that I butchered the name, feel free, let me know. And then the number 14 prospect, Wilkeman Gonzalez. So in terms of return, probably I do say it's a W. I see a Riffic out there. Yeah, I think this is a good trade for the White Sox. And as Josh Nelson of Sox Machine tweeted this out at SoxMachine_Josh, White Sox are getting Red Sox the last 2 first-round picks with Kyle Teel and Braden Montgomery. Teel has the makings of a starting catcher with a 50 grades defensively and contact. Montgomery has lots of potential, switch hitter, but stronger from left side, strong arm for right field. All right, so Teel is 22. He had a 288 average and an 819 OPS between AA and AAA ball. 852 OPS in 84 games at AA, along with 11 home runs. He hit 2 more at AAA. Montgomery did not play in the Complex League after he broke his ankle in the Super Regional. But when I spoke with Gabby Hurlbut, and her and I are going to be working on a crossover probably for tomorrow. She's the host of the Locked On Red Sox. The belief is he should be ready to go by spring training. So he'll probably start the year in the Complex League, obviously, and then maybe he's going to get to A-ball, that type of stuff. And this is a recent quote from him. It was per Mass Live's Chris Cotillo. Quote, "I'm feeling great," Montgomery told reporters. "I'm honestly a little bit ahead of schedule in terms of bone growth. They're seeing some bone growth where that break was. They let me walk a little bit on it. They really turned the screws loose in 2 weeks and let me start not having to scoot around. I'll have free range to walk and start rehabbing. As soon as that happens, I'll start speeding up even more. I'm feeling great. There's no pain and everything feels normal in there." So he hit 322 with 27 home runs at Texas A&M. Scouting report says he fits best in right field. And, you know, as I keep saying, as everydayers have heard me, the White Sox have been trying to replace Jermaine Dye, and he retired in 2009. So, you know, I think that, again, this is a great pickup because you add 2 impact bats, you know, 2 bats that project to be impactful, foundational players that you really needed for this system. And again, you basically get a guy that you were high on that you could have maybe even taken. So it's like, it's like they actually were familiar with their scouting report. They did something smart. Chase Madroth is 23, former 4th round pick in 2022. On base dude. Totally on base. And Uncle Ted, sorry, Roman Anthony isn't in the trade. I would have loved to have seen Roman Anthony, number 3 overall prospect, but those types of deals are not happening. So it's just, if this was 8 years ago, and I know that there's some of you out there thinking, you know what, I would love, to maybe not trade another ace pitcher to the Red Sox because of how Yoan Moncada and Michael Kopech turned out. Remember, they did help the White Sox win a 2021 division. Just injuries got in the way of Moncada, and his head and injuries got in the way of Michael Kopech. So, I take these things completely separate there. But back to Madroth, 23, former 4th round pick again, on base dude. On base god, in my opinion, here with looking at his numbers. Career 425 OPS in the minors. He had a 437 on base percentage, 837 OPS at AAA. And here's the MLB Pipeline scouting report. Madroth's bat to ball skills and strike zone management got him drafted and stood out in the first taste of pro ball. He has a compact right-handed swing and tremendous feel for the barrel, and he rarely chases pitches out of the zone. His bat speed and strength are ordinary, however, so he only has modest pull power. With fringy speed and arm strength, Meredith doesn't offer much value on the bases or in the field. He's best suited for second base, but primarily played third in Double A in deference to Nick York, and he also saw action at shortstop. He can get the job done at second, but lacks the arm for the hot corner and has a below average at short. But again, the White Sox are also trying to replace second baseman Ray Durham, who left town in 2002. And I've always said when it comes to the best. No, Uncle Ted, it was on base. Did I say on base percentage? I'm sorry, man. Thanks for OPS is what matters. Yes, but on base percentage still matters there, buddy. Sorry, I'll give you your minute there. Still got to get on base. Still basic Moneyball is getting on base, and there's nothing wrong with OPS on there. Madroth, I think, is a very good pickup for the White Sox. Again, they need a lineup of bat to ball guys. As I've always said, the most ideal lineup for the guaranteed rate field is you got to have at least 4 or 5 power hitters and 2 or 3 bat to ball skilled guys that can hit and that can put pressure on the defense. Now, Madroth obviously doesn't have the speed, but he does fit the back to ball skills. He sounds like you'd be almost getting another. You're not throwing me off there, buddy. So, the bat to ball skills, is what they need, obviously. And even if he can just run decently, that'll help in the White Sox lineup. And not that it can't hurt to have him compete with Brooks Baldwin at second base. Although I don't ideally want Lenine Sosa at shortstop to be your bridge, but still a very solid player. See that comment there that I've just shared with BStaff23. Hey, thanks for coming in peace. We appreciate it. Got to give up something to get something, though, guys. And obviously, the Red Sox should feel happy that they were able to keep their 3 top prospects. I did hear, there was whispers that Marcelo Mayer was going to be a part of the deal. Obviously, it's a different day and age when guys get to Double A, and if they can show they hit, a lot of teams are very, very hesitant to move those types of players because, again, of how cheap they come and how hard hitting is these days. So getting Teel is a huge, huge score there. And obviously, the Red Sox giving up on Montgomery already isn't a big deal to them because he's still an unknown. Now, obviously, a huge ceiling. Sky's the limit. That's why I'm excited. So, this is a great deal. And then in terms of Wilkerman Gonzalez, he had a 4.73 ERA and 83 2/3 innings, 92 strikeouts. He had 168 Ks last season between high A and Double A ball. In terms of his stuff, this is the MLB Pipeline report. When he's on, Gonzalez can have a plus fastball and a pair of plus secondary pitches, but his stuff has backed up while he struggled to make mechanical adjustments designed to improve his control in 2024. His heater sits at 93 to 95 miles per hour and tops out at 97 with its flat approach angle, producing difficult carry when he works up in the zone. His upper 70s curveball is a hammer when he stays on top of it, but he's struggling to land it for strikes and often eschews in favor for a fringy mid-80s slider cutter. His fading mid-80s changeup has confounded left-handed hitters in the past, but it isn't missing as many bats this summer. So obviously a project, but they're number 14 prospect, and obviously I don't mind the White Sox getting a pitcher back. Can never hurt to have talented arms in their system. And, hey, in Brian Bannister, I trust. And again, I like that they did get their positional needs addressed. They needed more impactful bats because, again, it's Colson Montgomery, Edgar Carroll, Brian Ramos, and then maybe George Wolcott all the way down at single A, and he's years away. So you get more impactful bats to draw from. And yes, I know Braden Montgomery is going to probably start at the complex league, but if he's on his career trajectory as he's supposed to be, he could probably get here pretty fast. But it's just sad too at the same time because it's another player that the Sox drafted and developed into a star, and they're trading him away probably for one reason: money. The only time I really heard them talk about an extension was twice. It was the initial report in July when Bob Nightingale said that the White Sox were thinking about trading him, that they engaged his camp briefly and didn't get anywhere with the extensions. And then towards the end of the season, Chris Getz did mention that they were talking about giving him an extension, that they might, and then that was it. They never talked about it again. So obviously it came down to one reason. I'm just making the assumption that they just didn't want to pay Garrett Crochet. And that's just sad because they just don't keep their stars. But the other sad reason why they don't keep their stars is because they've been so bad at drafting and developing players. They were so behind the times in terms of development and analytics and using that, getting players to be prepared, that, they just have to trade these, premium players, and since they don't spend money on anything too, to put them over the top to fill their gaps. I mean, because think about it, they just announced Mike Tauchman, and he's going to be, probably their starting right fielder or platoon with Austin Slater, another, really expensive hashtag sarcasm, free agent. They just don't spend on that they have to trade these premium players to give them any shot at a premium player. Well, after the break, I'll discuss if there's anybody worth watching on this team now and who should be the opening day starter, and I'll discuss that next on Locked On White Sox. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I always maintain FanDuel's spreads, over-under, and money lines are fun to play, but if you want to win big or at least double your money, FanDuel's parlays, props, and futures is the way to go. Right now, FanDuel has a plus 8,000. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Anderson each having 100-plus receiving yards and a touchdown or more in next Monday's Chicago-Minnesota game. $10 on that, and if it hits, that could pay out $800. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. This is a bonus episode, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, Locked On White Sox is available on all major podcast platforms, so make sure to follow or subscribe on places such as Apple or Spotify. As my everydayers always know, either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting with me. And there are some people venting right now, like my guy Derby Knowledge 93. Why didn't they trade him for a young star outfielder, infielder? Sox are a joke. Let's see. There's Derby again. Hey, Derby, I mean, I get your frustration, but it can never hurt to always have as many catchers, as many pitchers, as many shortstops, and as many center fielders. Always, up the middle in terms of the power profile, in terms of the positional flexibility, because again, if he doesn't work out at catcher, just move him to first. Some of these guys you can move to left field. What about Caleb Bonemeyer now? I still think he's a viable option. I mean, some of these guys you might have to use if you think you're going to be competitive, and I know there's going to be a lot of you laughing at this, but if you think you're going to be competitive by 2027 or 2028, you're going to need prospects, obviously, to trade to put you over the top. And the White Sox, remember, in the previous competitive window, did at least trade some prospects. The problem was they just never kept drafting and developing more to keep following along. It was like once Robert Jr., Eloy Jimenez, and Yohan Moncada and Andrew Vaughn and Kopech and Cease and Giolito, once they all made it, it was like that was it. They were done. And remember, all these guys that I'm mentioning, only Vaughn was drafted, and he's replacement level at best. Let's see. What do we got here? I want to answer some of these questions before I get into the next comment. Let's see. Sally, you got, are the White Sox trading Luis Robert Jr.? It sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like they keep wanting to, as everydayers have heard, and I've talked on past episodes. If you want to just go back onto some of my Luis Robert Jr. episodes, but in summary, it sounds like they're really, really afraid he might have another prolonged injury, and if he gets hurt again in 2025 and it's prolonged, you're probably looking at another Yohan Moncada experience, and that means you're basically going to lose him for nothing. And we're really looking at the possibility that the White Sox, this is a make or break season for Luis Robert Jr. So I think they want to get something instead of risking the potential of losing him for nothing. Although the mitigant, at least we can finally move on from this terrible, terrible collapse of the contention window. There you go, Maverick. Again, if you're listening audio when this posts, I'm posting comments from our comments here. Maybe Boston will send us another Yohan Moncada. Let's hope not. Let's hope Braden Montgomery actually stays healthy. Let's hope this broken ankle is the only injury that he's ever had, major injury and that type of stuff. And then when it comes to Lee and Caro, I mean, that's where I'm going to start now in terms of, if Luis Robert Jr. is traded to, when the season starts, then there's probably nobody worth watching on this team, honestly. If Luis Robert Jr. gets dealt, there's no one worth trading. Worth watching. There's just not. Edgar Caro and Colson Montgomery, if they make the team, then you got something. And I shouldn't be too blunt. Again, I really like Brian Ramos, and it sounds like they're going to probably make him the designated hitter, and they might move him to the outfield because for some reason, they still think Miguel Vargas can be salvaged. And I want to be like, this man has been traumatized so much just from going from Los Angeles to the South Side that I think he's beyond repair. But if you do get Edgar Caro and Colson Montgomery on the big league roster in the opening day, there's something there because, again, those are two potential foundational bats. And it does sound like there's a shot for Caro and Montgomery to make the roster. CHGO beat reporter at Vinny Duber tweeted this out. Chris Getz says it's not a stretch to suggest Colson Montgomery could be the Sox opening day shortstop, but obviously that's dependent on how the spring goes for the Org's top position player prospect. Similarly, Getz expects Edgar Caro to compete for a spot this spring, and that is kind of a different a change, because when I had Josh Nelson from Sox Machine on last month, he was saying one of the things that they were looking at was maybe a backup catcher, kind of have Corey Lee again be the starter, even though Corey Lee, I think he's more of a backup catcher down the road. You have him and then maybe a platoon, and then you have Edgar Caro gets maybe maybe 2-3 more months of bats at AAA and then bring him up. But it sounds like, hey, Chris Getz is realizing, again, the expectations is just don't lose 121 games. Everybody on this chat, everybody watching, everybody that's going to watch it, everybody that listens, every White Sox fan out here that still identifies as a White Sox fan is basically saying, just don't lose 121 games ever again. Don't have historic losing. Everybody would be greeting 101 losses like they did in 2023, in 2025 as success. The bar is so low. So why not give some of these guys some runway there? Yeah. Maverick, I agree with you. Discouraging to see some top prospects like Garrett Crochet go, obviously, because again, this is also a first round. This is one of your few wins that you had as a drafting, and you're just, again, you're letting them go because you don't want to pay them. But, as you point out there, Uncle Ted, on the YouTube chat, you have Schultz, Noah Schultz, your top prospect too, and maybe he's up this year, maybe. In 2025, that might be something worth. And Hagen Smith, They might be. And, that's kind of what it felt like when they drafted Hagen Smith. They were drafting Garrett Crochet's replacement. Anyways, there's just not much, though, to watch if you don't bring up Edgar Carroll and Colson Montgomery. Now, I'm not saying bring those guys up because us fans, we deserve to have something to watch. At this point, again, expectations are so low, you can be patient with those two. In terms of who's the opening day starter, I think it's Jonathan Cannon or maybe Davis Martin. Again, not, very exciting. But, Jonathan Cannon was a very solid pitcher. His floor, he's definitely showing he's going to hit his floor, and that is a solid number 3, number 4 pitcher, just like Davis Martin. And remember, this team does not pay for pitching. They just don't. And that way, if you've got them controllable and you've got them for cheap, and that's what they kind of need right now. And I'm thinking in terms of the rotation, it's going to be Cannon, Martin, Drew Thorpe. I would love to see Sean Burke in the rotation. Then I think they are going to get a veteran. And in this case, it can't hurt now to have a veteran starter. Although, again, I keep advocating, why not give, Kai Bush, Mason Adams, Jairo Iriarte some runway, but it can't hurt to have a veteran, especially to be like, hey, here's how we do things. Here's how you can go about your business. Nothing like that. It can't hurt. And there's cheap options, effective options out there. There's Jacob Junis, Colin Rea. There are some options out there, a reunion with Jose Quintana. So it can't hurt to probably bring in and if you do bring in maybe Jose Quintana, maybe he is also your opening day starter. Anyways, this wraps up this bonus edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today, and now your second listen. For your additional listen, again, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, and I'll be back tomorrow, likely with a crossover episode with Locked On Boston, with Locked On Red Sox to discuss this trade even more. Feel free to leave comments about today's bonus discussion regarding Garrett Crochet going to the Boston Red Sox. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dub, or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.